As an example, if you look back in 2000, what could you buy with $1 compared to what can you buy in 2024 with $1? If you look at what gold was worth back then, it was $200 to $250 an ounce. Today, it's closing in on $2,500 an ounce. So the buying power of gold continues to go up, whereas the buying power of fiat currencies continues to go down. And I think that's why we're seeing a large influx of central bank buying into gold, and I expect this will continue. So now we have the facility for ore. It's how are you going to feed it? And we have 3 of the highest grade refractory gold deposits in the state. So our Cove, Granite Creek, and Ruby Deeps at Ruby Hill gold projects rank amongst the highest grade gold deposits in all of the United States. And our plan is to advance all 3 of those underground operations in order to feed our central processing facility. So really a hub and spoke model. And so those are the 2 competitive advantages I think we have, is the processing facility to process this unique ore that you find in Nevada.
The gold price is about to reach new all-time highs again, and some of the major gold producers are already looking for new opportunities in the M&A transaction and activities. And that's a good timing for us as investors to go out and do our due diligence, looking for opportunities for a potential turnaround, and also for new mines being built, because that's always the best sweet spot, if you like. You have no exploration downside anymore, but on the other hand, you have the upside of a potential new mine. And today with me is a potential company in this exact sweet spot. Ewan Downie is with me. He's the CEO of i-80 Gold, a gold development company with exciting projects in Nevada, actually one of the best jurisdictions when it comes to mining. First of all, Ewan, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you.
Great being on your show.
Great. So before we start talking about all your great projects and the opportunities for investors, let's start a little bit more general in gold, right? We can see central banks adding more and more gold to their balance sheet. We also see the BRICS a little bit moving towards a potential currency as competition for the US dollar. And now we do have another escalation when it comes to war and geopolitical conflicts. So a lot of things that really brings investors to gold. And I believe we are in the right spot to look for mining companies. What do you think about the current situation?
Yeah, I think gold prices has really performed well, as it should in this type of environment. As you said, the geopolitical environment is pretty difficult, not only making it ripe for gold, but making it more important to select where you're going to invest in mining companies, because some jurisdictions aren't quite as favorable when it comes to mine development as other ones. I also think that the going away from the gold standard, as you know, the world has done many years ago, was truly a big mistake, because the ability just to inflate your dollar and continue to just tack on debt is long-term detrimental to one's investment and one's personal wealth when you hold money. As an example, if you look back in 2000, what could you buy with $1 compared to what can you buy in 2024 with $1? If you look at what gold was worth back then, it was $200 to $250 an ounce. Today, it's closing in on $2,500 an ounce. So the buying power of gold continues to go up, whereas the buying power of fiat currencies continues to go down. And I think that's why we're seeing a large influx of central bank buying into gold, and I expect this will continue.
Yes, I think so too. And I think I do believe that people still don't understand what inflation truly means to their money. So do portfolio managers, because a lot of the institutionals are still not looking to gold, even though the central banks are doing so. Really, the gold miners are a little bit out of favor, so it's a good situation for us to be in. And i-80 Gold is one of the biggest holders of gold and silver resources in the US, and we will talk about it in a minute. But let's talk a little bit more about you and your management team. Because I'm always telling our investors, you have to have a good jurisdiction, a great project, you have to all the permits in place, but in the end, the management team is responsible for my money as an investor, right? So maybe you can give us a little bit of a background, what makes you and your team the best people to be in this position, and also, do you guys have skin in the game? Meaning, do you have personal money in your company?
Yes, well, as for personal money in the company, I believe I'm listed as the largest individual shareholder of our company. So that doesn't mean fund-wise, but as for an individual person, I believe I'm currently rated as the largest shareholder as a single investor. Orion Mine Finance obviously owns a lot more than I do, and Sprott, the Sprott funds own a lot more than I do. But in terms of an individual person, I'm a very significant shareholder in the company. I've acquired about half of that position through our financings we've done previously and purchases in the open market over the last 3 years, as we're a 3-year-old company. So as management, I started my first public company in the late 1990s. We're in gold and base metals. That company was taken over because we had success in exploration that led to us working on a development plan for projects, base metal projects in the Arctic. The company was taken over. As part of the takeover, we spun out our gold assets to create Premier Gold. And I spent approximately 13, 14 years running Premier Gold until 3 years ago when Equinox took over Premier as we were moving, had just completed a feasibility study on the Greenstone mine that is soon to be Equinox's flagship asset. So that was a discovery that I had made, and we drilled out and permitted. As part of that takeover, we spun out our Nevada assets to create i-80 Gold and have subsequently made some significant acquisitions in the state over the last 3 years. As I said, we're a 3-year-old company, and we've also had substantial exploration success with new discoveries being made on several properties that are now moving towards being permitted with feasibility studies to become what we hope will be the next 3 mines in the state of Nevada.
Great. And as you already said, your focus is on the state of Nevada. And we said earlier that it's really important to have the best jurisdiction you can get for mining. And I think that's very important nowadays. We can see the problems we have in Mexico. Also, we have countries in especially Africa, like, for example, Burkina Faso. They don't want Western mining companies anymore in their jurisdiction. And the problem with mining is you can't just take your deposit and take it anywhere else. You have to be in the location where the deposit is at, right? So why do you think Nevada is one of the top states? Why are you positioned there?
We're positioned in Nevada because we've had such a tremendous experience working there. If another example of a project that was shut down by a country was Panama, when they shut down the Cobre Panama operation on First Quantum. And so that's an example of the political risk I was talking about earlier when it comes to properties. And when we had Premier, we had the Mercedes mine in Mexico, has its own challenges. Mexico has its own challenges when it comes to operating in a mine. We were in Canada in both Red Lake and Geraldton with the Greenstone operation. Canada's can be quite a difficult place to permit in the current environment. And we also had projects in Nevada, and we found Nevada to be by far the easiest jurisdiction to work. What a lot of people don't know is if Nevada were a country separate from the US, I believe it would rank in the top 5 gold producing nations in the world. So it's got a massive history of allowing mining. It's very supportive of mining throughout north central Nevada. All of the towns essentially are there because they support mining operations. So there's very pro-mining communities and government that obviously has been very supportive for a long time about mining operations. And last year was ranked the #1 jurisdiction in the world for mining, and it's consistently ranked right in the top 3. So it's just a place that you have a stability of government, so that's stability of ownership over your projects, and you also have a place that is quite favorable towards having you there. Like the local communities are all in favor of mining rather than being, why I don't want to mine in my backyard.
Yes, this is always good. And as you already mentioned, we all have seen those problems that come with, let's say, not so good jurisdictions. So it's great to hear that you're in a sweet spot, basically. But let's talk a little bit more about the project in this jurisdiction. You're not a typical development company having one asset and it might be good or it might not. You actually have more operations. 4 of them are quite advanced and also quite good, actually. But please give our listeners a little bit of a brief overview about each of the projects. What makes them so special and at what stage are we talking about?
Well, I think one of the things that makes us most special in Nevada is the fact that we were able to, about 2.5 years ago, to acquire our own processing facility for refractory gold mineralization in the state. And why that's so important in Nevada is 20 years ago, the majority of production in the state was from oxide gold projects. They were processed primarily through heap leaching, but as people know or don't know about Nevada is typically as you get through the weathered portion near surface and you go to depth, the gold mineralization is most often encapsulated in sulfides. And to liberate the gold, you need to essentially cook it. And that's called these are called refractory ore processing facilities. And the most typical facilities of this type are roasters and autoclaves. And these, because of the environmental sensitivity that you see today, are very difficult to permit. And when you jump forward to today, for Nevada Gold Mines, which is Barrick and Newmont who put their assets together in Nevada, the probably 80 to 90% of their production today is from refractory ore. And as I said, the easy oxide deposits in the state have mostly been mined. And if a company doesn't have the ability to process refractory mineralization, I believe their longevity in the state is limited. And we are fortunate that with the acquisition of Lone Tree, that's one of our 4 core projects, we acquired an autoclave. So the only 2 companies in the United States, all of the United States, with autoclave facilities are i-80 Gold and Barrick through the Nevada Gold Mines joint venture, so Barrick and Newmont. And that, to me, provides our company with a massive competitive advantage to be a long-term standalone producer in the state of Nevada. And so now we have the facility for ore. It's how are you going to feed it? And we have 3 of the highest grade refractory gold deposits in the state. So our Cove, Granite Creek, and Ruby Deeps at Ruby Hill gold projects rank amongst the highest grade gold deposits in all of the United States. And our plan is to advance all 3 of those underground operations in order to feed our central processing facility. So really a hub and spoke model. And so those are the 2 competitive advantages I think we have is the processing facility to process this unique ore that you find in Nevada.
Okay, that's very good. And all your assets are close to your processing facility. So can you truck all the ore there? Is it all close by, basically?
Yeah, the Cove and Granite Creek projects are within approximately 100 kilometers of the processing facility. So those 2 are quite close. Ruby Hill is a bit further away, but it is also expected to be the smallest of our mines that are feeding that autoclave. So yes, they're all within what you call trucking distance. And instead of having to build 3 separate processing facilities, 3 separate tailings ponds, etc., we have the luxury of having just one, and it's already built and it's already permitted. So that's a huge advantage in this industry.
That's very good. And let's talk a little bit more about your share price also, right? I mean, all the, let's say, junior mining exploration companies have suffered, but you're not a junior mining explorer. You're a developer, and your stock came down quite sharp over the last 12 months as, as I said, the whole industry basically did. But you're definitely different. So what do you think is now necessary to create and to unlock the value that you have in the ground? Is it the announcement that you have the capex ready to build a mine, or what does it really need to take off and unlock the value here?
Yeah, I'd say if you look at the history of our company, really we started trading in 2021. In 2022, which was a bad year for gold stocks. There's been, we're on about a 3-year spur of equities underperforming the commodities significantly, as you mentioned. It's been a tough market on the gold equities. And in 2022, our second year of existence, we were one of, if not the top producing gold stock on the TSX. That was on the back of building this portfolio, having substantial exploration success. And as we rounded 22 into 2023, we started to say, now we are going to do the definition drilling, feasibility studies for our projects, and we're going to move forward with a development plan. And that development plan, and then we got the questions, well, how much is capital to build these projects? And we started putting our capital numbers out there, being more than 500 million US to build out these projects. And if you believe in the Lassonde curve, we entered that Lassonde curve quite heavily as investors looked at, well, these guys now aren't going to be throwing off all good exploration results. They're going to be raising capital and building mines. And unfortunately, as we talked about in advance of this interview, it's almost that we're a company who had tremendous success in acquisition, in exploration. We built up a portfolio of projects that makes us one of the largest holders of gold and silver resources in all of the United States. Our grades are amongst the top 10% at all deposits. And as soon as we said, well, our deposits are so good, we're going to build them into mines, we were penalized for it. So it's just a really odd feature that you find in our industry, being sort of a capital intensive business to achieve your end goal, is as soon as you have the success to say, now we're going to build a mine, you almost got to get put in the penalty box, so to speak. And to come out of that penalty box, you have to finish your feasibility studies, demonstrate that your financing plan, how you're going to build it, and then the stock typically significantly outperforms, and usually you surpass where you started. A good example of this is Artemis, how they've gone from sort of starting their development, had their difficulties, they got the financing, they moved up. Skeena recently announced a financing package, and their share price increased by 50–60%. So I think we're in that position, we're sort of in that in-between stage, but as soon as we crack that nut, I would expect that we'll significantly outperform, especially owing to the quality of our projects.
Great, and I think the timing is also good, right? Because we are really about to enter here a great bull market for gold stocks, in my view. Do you have a little bit of a time frame for us? How long will it take until you can deliver all these milestones, which bring you in a different position here?
We're actually developing underground at Granite Creek, our first of our operations, as we speak. In fact, as early as later today or tomorrow, we're going to be giving a presentation around our quarter, and we'll be discussing the first development that we did into what we call the South Pacific Zone. So the South Pacific Zone is the main deposit at Granite Creek. We just established the first workings, put in the ventilation, everything required to develop that much larger deposit that we have to the north of the historic Granite Creek operation. And we are going to be putting out the first news on how that's been going. I think is quite positive and will lead to this being a major operation for our company. So as we continue to transition this project from being development and exploration heavy to actually producing gold on a more regular basis, we are expecting this project to become cash flow positive for i-80, hopefully by the end of this year. And it is the first of our operations. Cove, we are underground, so we did put in the first phase of underground development. So we got those permits, put in all of that infrastructure, and we are now doing the definition drilling required to do a full feasibility on Cove. So Cove is second most advanced in terms of underground, but is actually the third that we expect to go into full production. It's probably about 2.5, 3.5 years period until it achieves pure production. The third underground project we are advancing is Ruby Hill. We are expecting Ruby Hill to be permitted during 2024, and that will allow us to pursue an underground development program as early as later this year, early next year. And that project, though it'll be the third one that we are advancing to development, is expected to be the second one that enters production for us. So we expect to see the three mines sort of each transition into development, and that will allow us to start up our central processing facility. Ruby Hill, we are in the final stages of negotiating and hopefully completing a joint venture that with a party that will essentially fund the project for the next 2 years. And that would take a significant amount of the financing overhang I think there is on the company away and allow us to more aggressively develop at least Ruby Hill using somebody else's money instead of necessarily going back to the market. So I think there's a lot of really positive developments coming in the next 6 months, and we should see a big turnaround in our share price.
This sounds really, really good, Ewan. And just to summarize here a little bit, as you said, we talked a little bit earlier. So your company's strategy is not to bring one asset in production, earn some money, and then finance the next one from your earned money. Basically, you want all these three mines to go in production as soon as possible. You will take a little bit of debt, which is probably creating a little bit of uncertainty with the share price. As you already said, you're kind of in this transition phase here. But once you're in the production with a time frame of, let's say, 2-3 years, with higher gold prices in place, I mean, we're talking about high grade, we're talking about relatively low cost, a low ASIC. This could be a really good upside here within the next 3, maybe 4, 5 years for investors, right? So if you're patient and do your due diligence now, would you expect a huge upside here? Give us a little bit of what do you expect from your company within this time frame, basically?
Well, I think we should see significant gains. And in just this morning, I think was one good example of what bigger companies are looking for. That's one thing I think you should not overlook in I-80 is the fact that we're in a great jurisdiction, great grades. In all categories, we have over 14 million ounces of gold, closing in on 200 million ounces of silver. So huge resource base. And we're trading fairly low on a per ounce basis. Just this morning, Gold Fields acquired the other 50% of Osisko for over $2 billion Canadian. And that's 50% of that asset. We own 100% of our 4 core assets. Be a bit less at Ruby Hill, pending completion of the joint venture, but we'll still be majority owner. And we have a much larger resource base than Osisko did, yet we're trading at about 20% of what they were just acquired for. So I think for the ounces in ground, we offer tremendous value, and that value will only be enhanced as we de-risk these projects. And I would point out that I think there is sort of the market being somewhat spooked by the fact that we're building mines and we're going to need capital. But our estimate for building out this portfolio is, as I said, sort of in that $600 million US range for 3 underground operations. Typically, it would cost at least that for just one. And I think that's something that's really overlooked. And the fact that we have essentially projects that are either fully permitted or in the advanced stages of permitting. These are all brownfield sites, not green fields up in pristine wilderness, that this company does have a true pathway to be very successful going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for pointing this out. And maybe just in the end, I mean, we're talking about a roughly 600 million US capex here for 3 mines, as you said earlier, but you have a market cap of around 400 million Canadians. I've seen companies with like 20, 30 million market cap, and at the other hand, having like $1 billion capex. So there's a totally different situation here. You're in a definitely way better position, and I'm really looking forward to your news flow within the next few weeks and months because it's going to be exciting. Are there, Ewan, any last words from you? Is there anything else our retail investors here in Germany should know about your company or yourself?
No, I would just think that I'd do a good look at when you're investing in companies, not only ours, is do a good research on where they are. Are they in a place that's actually going to accept mining? Last year, I was on a board of a company whose permits were rejected by the jurisdiction they were working in. So it can be difficult to get permitted projects. And when you look at our company being in Nevada, every property has existing roads and grid power. We have 2 existing processing plants. We have multiple projects that have historic heap leach projects on them. So the projects are brownfield, so to speak, instead of greenfield. And I'd say as we go forward, our management team, you asked about that earlier. I'm more of an explorer, and what we need to do is probably do some strengthening in our operations development side as we go forward, and we're working on that plan. And I think you'll see some news on that here in the near future as well. So but our team, the majority of our team in Nevada, has either worked for or a strong long-time relationships with Barrick and Nevada operating in the state of Nevada. And so they've got great experience in the operations and what's required in the state. Matt Gilley, who's our president, used to run the Cortez operation, which is the second largest mine in the state. So we built the team that's going to allow us to be successful in the future. And now we just have to unlock the how, or really, I think, demonstrate to the market better how we're going to take this exploration success into operational excellence, so to speak.
Great. Ewan, thank you very much for summarizing this exciting story for us, to telling us more. And I'm really looking forward to news flow, as I already said. And let's touch base again soon and see how it goes. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, look forward to talking to you next time.